Hello. This is something that I wanted to say. I know Benorfoil wanted to get this across. Uh, Yesterday, uh, from the time of this recording, uh, this was the Interstellar Council, and he sat in this tree the whole time back here. And what happened was he was talking about. You heard him on the show talking about uh, sprays and like Roundup and environmentally safe stuff. So environmentally safe stuff like this green stuff they coat the ground. If somebody had done it, I would show you what it was. Maybe somebody else could identify what exactly it was. But I know these are all derivatives of Agent Orange, and I was always in a panic when people were doing it, and I. Uh, I knew it was poison, but it was more of this over the top type of panic. And I was told that it was because, uh, since I'm part elemental, and it was harming me on the energetic level and physical level, on a very small molecular level. I gotta move here. Uh, the What was going on was the sprays not only were grounding the energies really harshly in the more 3D energies, so nobody else was just seeing anything wrong because it wasn't happening to them. But, or it was, they just weren't noticing it. But I was told that they were basically agents for, unknowingly, for the even group that's out here. We call them the buttheads again. They want these sprays here because it's a war against elementals. This is why I don't ever see hardly any of them around here. The dryads, yeah, like the trees, like that guy, and this one, and them. But the ones like Benorfoil, you don't see them, or in a tree fit, you don't really always see them. It's because these poisons and sprays are killing them and hurting them. They can't be around it, and the energetics and the physicality of it can't be around it. So that must be also why the forest people couldn't be around it either. They're elemental. But anybody that has any elemental coating, which there's a lot of people, they're getting sick from it or dying from it. That happened in Nebraska, and they had to ban Roundup there in Lincoln at one point a long time ago. I don't know if they've lifted it since then and made an environmentally safe version because people were getting sick from the it aerosoling in the air, and you could tell where it hit the trees and stuff because it would speckle. Because people go out in the wind and start spraying it all over the place. Well, because they're being controlled to do it. It's not just the programming; it's telepathic influence by aliens that want that poison around. Because they're using it as strategic warfare against these elementals. And in, I believe, Harlem Park, where Benorfoil is, they have more control over that sector, and they can make it so people aren't always doing it. Maybe to a minor degree in some areas, but that's almost inconsequential in some instances, almost. But here, if they tried coming in here, I asked them if they could come in here and influence the HOA to get people to stop doing it. I said under normal circumstances it'd be no problem, but because how powerful they are. But the evens that are in the hills that you can't see it from here, but it's off that direction. Off in the hills, I'll have to photograph that area where they are. Maybe some focus from some other people, other parts of the country will help fix that. But but yeah, they don't listen to negotiation. They don't listen to any of that. They said it basically mine. I'm stamping my or plant my flag, and one could see that as a sovereign move, but one could also see it as a dick move too, where you need to be able to coexist. And then if somebody like myself objects to people doing these things, I'm seen as a neighborhood pain in the ass. So, like the person that used to live across the street, I asked him not to spray stuff, except using salt, soap, and vinegar. Just polite. I wasn't a bully or anything. Said, we're allergic to it, we can't be around it, all that. What does the guy do? He waits until he thinks that we've sufficiently been distracted by the television, comes out, and he's like, looking around for me like this. It's like, no, the idea is you're supposed to stop it. But that's what the programming that the HOA has instilled in people, this neurotic behavior has instilled in people. And who's controlling them? Ebens. So, and some military interests that work on behalf of thereof. So, or working with thereof. So, where the Ebens don't want to come into the neighborhood, there's also gang stalkers that have been around too, on a very small level, listening to transmissions and stalking. You know, the routine with them. But anyhow, the problem here is, yeah, these I try to put stuff out to counteract the energies like shungite, and shungite makes the weeds grow faster. It turns them into this emerald green, like you're in the land of Oz, and which I tried it already. That's what it does. Has these like, it's like all this, like almost like hair, like emerald, like hair that comes up real fast, and then it's sprayed immediately. So it's like kind of a catch-22. But I was told the more I do that, though, the more the energetics fundamentally change to the point where these beings can get a greater foothold. So if you're in a neighborhood and people are always doing this, throw shungite powder in other places, even if it makes the stuff grow faster to the point where people are doing that more. They're going to notice they're going to be spending more money on it, and they're going to go, screw it, after a while, if there's more money being spent. So it's well worth the money on your part to do that, and you're changing it little millimeters and centimeters at a time. And eventually these beings get a big enough foothold to where that stops altogether. So that's what I was able to learn with that. So just don't spray anything. Do it the old-fashioned way. I told them, it's like, they basically said, if people were out there just removing them, picking them, digging them up like we do with the shovels. I know it's like an uphill battle, but people were doing it. They'd get the exercise, they'd get outside, they'd get the sunlight, and they wouldn't be reclusive and sick. So there you go. So yeah, that's why we're having to do that out here more. And what may come after we leave, unfortunately that happens, but at least we left our footprint in that area, left the mark. And I intend to leave shungite powder all over the place, and eventually that's going to make it so these beings can get in here better, instead of just having to hide in the tree like that one over there, and my channel crystal under there. But yeah, that one is where he was. So he was protected by all those blooms. So okay, I'll end that here. It is 8:27 a.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. One thing I forgot to add are like different sages and different clearing plants too, like rosemary, thyme. I'm being heard as well. Also does this effect too, like different sages blowing in the air. I put wolf's bane and nightshade in the air, but those are the more poisonous ones. That kept out different entities, let it blow around and stay like hair blowing around. You can do that with different sages, like sage bundles. You can break it up and put it underneath the bases of the trees, around the trees, and around the plants. And you get enough of that even powdered white sage. White sage is probably the best. Throw it around. Palo Santo, powdered Palo Santo, things of that nature. And this also should begin to correct this anomaly. I was just reminded, of course, when the recording's off, I hear that in my head. So, and different clearing things like the salts, but not putting it around the plant, of course. So give me a moment. Yeah, not around the plants, of course, but yeah, it is something that probably should be done. I throw sage and stuff around all the time, or even burn it. Burning that amber frankincense myrrh. You saw me use that on the ghost property once. That was next door to this house where the lady died. So I was putting that out to protect against that. That's another thing that helps. And also burning amber frankincense and myrrh, sage, Palo Santo in the air here. It seems to get rid of those other molecules from the Roundup and other sprays. It seems to make a protective wall while somebody else is doing it. So yeah, I'll leave that here. Something's trying to distract me away from that now. It is 8:29 a.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, now I know what I was being distracted against. Any of the plant materials I use in my sprays, like lavenders, sages, hibiscus flower, any like rose petals, any of the things that I use in my jug there, are an affront to these ebens because it clears these away. Anything I make my land clearing liquids out and sprays out, patchoulis, all of that. So spread all those things far and wide and just let it crunch up and flow into the air. It changes it little bits at a time. I've been doing the same here, and it's been happening. So I even take the remainder of our hibiscus tea and dump it out here. So yeah, I even throw little broken pieces of apatite stones, shungite pieces, uh, plant sages, all that other stuff. Powders like shungite powder, I shake the bag out. If there's stuff in the corners of the bag, I'll rip it open and shake it out. Where any of the stones came from, like the tourmaline and stuff, if there's dust in the corners of the bag, I shake it out. Just keep doing that. Don't just throw it out, just make sure it's shaken out. And it will work. Trust me, it does work little bits at a time. So that's what they were trying to distract me. It's any of those things. Quartz bits, I mean, there's quartz around, but the quartz reacts to the shungite, which reacts to the orgone pieces I leave. That works as well. I bury those all the time, and it works. And I throw shungite nuggets all over. There's some orgone pieces I'm going to permanently leave here. I don't want somebody scavenger hunting for any of these, but like that little black one up here. That magnet one there. I'm going to bury that one somewhere around this neighborhood. Yeah, I'm going to continue to do that. Selenite is another one that disentangles, like you know. Just leaving bits of these things around, making a permanent dent, is what they were getting at, and what I'm getting at. So, I will leave that here. Hopefully, nothing else downloads. We're doing a True You episode this morning, so I got to cut it out for the moment. It is 8:32 a.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. All right, we are on Thumb Butte, and I want to report to everybody that coming up here, even here, the energy is really not that great. And we drove up here, and it was like a boulder hitting you, or a board to the face. We went through another neighborhood that was even worse, that was just further off away from here. But this is the spot where we originally did the Lyran channeling I told you all about. When we sat here and brought Saranan and Failal in. This was the spot where that channeling was done, roughly right here. There's a lot more foliage and grasses from the last time, but this is roughly the spot. I recognize the tree here. And the energies, I really must say, it's horrific. And we're surrounded by nature. It's pretty, but at the same time, there's something that happened here in the interim. It wasn't just the fact that we had the Lyran channeling here. It was, and that got retaliated against. It was, this is something different entirely. Something happened here that wasn't that great. I mean, it's pretty country. The energies fluctuate, but it's pretty damn dense. And I'm wearing shungite, and it's dense. I'm holding shungite, and it's dense. So it's still making me ache. So that's the report I want to give, and we're also going to gift this shungite here to Thumb Butte while we're here. Ooh, that wind. All right. This is. Oh no, you can open that. No. Yeah, this is where we would usually come up to. Up and around the corner is where we would gift Sasquatch gifts. Oh crap! Thought the dog thought we were throwing a ball or something, but okay. Okay. Now, a few more over this way. Okay, a little bit more. We can just dump the bag out there. All right, there. That should do it. I felt the fluctuation from the shungite a little bit. here, but the amount that you would need to correct this is not a feasible amount. From the neighborhood that we were in and this, you would probably have to empty half the Karelia mine to fix some of that. So, ouch, fix some of that. But a little millimeters at a time, centimeters at a time. So, I just wanted to give that report, Joanne. I don't know if you have anything to say here.
No, not really. Just surprised and really surprised where we first were before we decided to come here, how bad it was. I'm telling you.
And it was surrounded by trees and it was still horrid.
It was one of the most naturist places,
In Prescott.
In Prescott, honestly. So my mind's kind of blown a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what to think about that.
Yeah, we'll continue to bring shungite up here, but that's just shocking. So I will leave it at that. Let's see, the date on this is 4:08 p.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, I will add to this that the energy was so bad that it was making my arms go numb a little bit, and we're just shocked at the energies here, how they could have slipped downward so badly. That is just astonishing. It's even making my jaws hurt. That, and from the neighborhood we were just in, we were told to come out in the nature, and we did it. I wanted to be able to walk through here again. We hadn't been back here in a couple of years, since just as the hammer was dropping in 2020 was the last time we were up here, and we didn't get to go to the parks or anything like that. So we're finally getting around to doing it again, and it's makes you want to barf. So I'm not dumping on any of the elementals or dryads or anything, but I don't know how the elementals here can handle that. Something bad had to have occurred. I don't know what that is, but something had to have happened. It's aside from when the Lyrans were here and they ended up getting targeted at that time. It's by the Cabal putting that weird net down, like we said in the Lyran episode, talk with the Galactics, or talk with the Elementals, which one we did. I talked about it on both, and on Interstellar Council. But this is just crazy. So not sure what happened here. I'm glad we're wearing shungite. I'm wearing my hat and everything. Never used to do that. I was far more open to doing stuff up here before. But yeah, I don't think we'll be back up here, except maybe to get some shungite at some point. But I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference. I mean, the trees are taking some load here, I can feel, but it's just astonishing what happened. So something that upset the balance had to have occurred. Too many trees were cut down, some elementals were displaced or harassed or hurt or killed, or something of that nature. Somebody died, or something happened. You can only speculate, but it's bad. So I will leave it at that. It is 4:14 p.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, we're here at Goldwater Lake, now one of our other haunts where we would do reports and channelings from. Energy is just as bad, if not worse, than some of the areas we were in. And that's also surprising because it's right next to water. So on the way out of Thumb Butte, we were feeling it on the tops of our heads, and I even have head protection on. She felt it too. So we came over here to check this over here while we were out, and it's still just as bad. So I'm uncertain as to what happened. There's fluctuating energies. Even through downtown Prescott, it was far better. We went into a donut shop that was far better in energy than Thumb Butte, this place, and that neighborhood combined. So I'm not quite sure what's going on in these parks that it is so bad. In these nature areas that are so bad. It's supposed to be better than a human populated area with technology, and it's not. So yeah, so this is where I'm leaving this energy report. It's and you can see, there's trees all over. over there. Yeah. And it's supposed to be the opposite of what I'm feeling. So it's like almost like massacre level of crap. We can pull out. We can keep going. And, yeah, it's that bad. That's how dense it is. So not sure what's going on. So we'll see it some other time if it's improved. But this is where I'm going to leave it for tonight. It is 4:50 p.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. One thing I forgot to mention is there was no elemental life that I could see. You could feel like you were being watched, but in both places, here and there. But it's like, okay, if there's elementals here, why are they not caretaking the energy? Either we have gotten better in our energies, and we're just kind of being extremely sensitive to changes, but the tree should not be that dense. Sorry. Even in any case, the tree should not be that dense. Or something really bad happened, or both. But still, the trees and nature should be accounting for this. There are caretakers that are supposed to be fixing this. Unless something happened, like a dew weapon, or something satellite-wise, technological-wise. It's like I'm standing next to a 5G antenna. So I could see something like that driving all the elementals away. Because the forest people used to be up on Thumb Butte, and they're not anymore. I even got pictures of them up there. They're not anymore. So that was years ago in 2018-ish, somewhere in there. We were getting pictures of them up there, even before. But now, no. And it's a great little area, as you can see here. But no, there's something very wrong. So my senses aren't that far gone. So report at some future date when we can. So 4:52 p.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, we got home after doing all of that, and I've come to the conclusion that I believe there's many things linked. I'll include the other video I did about the spraying and the getting rid of the elementals, because I believe it's linked to what I'm about to say, along with the Eben and Syrian agendas that you saw in those other videos that we did, from the fairs and back to the Syrian agenda video that we did about the Lancaneers and them. A couple of years back, or several years back, we also did reports on some of the elementals shifting and changing over there on Thumb Butte. Like they were starting to turn on us. They were getting very crotchety and temperamental with us. They would constantly run from us like we were the enemy, we were the bad guy, and that was not true at all. And we were always thinking that it was Orion's primarily doing it, military doing it, but I believe it's Syrian, Lancaneer, and Eben as well that we're doing this, trying to claim the area and getting rid of or eliminating elementals. Same way like what I was saying in this neighborhood with the spraying and from the chemicals. And I believe it's the chemtrails and the chem clouds as well, because over us here, I'll just open this up. And over us, if you take a look up, if you can, there's chemtrailing. And you can tell there's been some HARP activity along with it. And the ripple clouds over here that have the ripple effect right there are evidence of HARP activity, along with chemtrailing. So it's my conclusion that all of these things are linked. What we experienced at the psychic fair recently, with the Syrian man that was in there, and the Syrian activity, and also the putting of the crowns on the people on the highway from Black Canyon, going to Thumb Butte and Goldwater Lake in that neighborhood. No elementals that I could see that were like Benorfoil or anything like that were around. Or anything similar, like some tree fae. I may see one every now and again here, but like we had one named Bundini here for a while, and I thought he had abandoned the area. They said they were more like elemental guards, and none to be seen here. It's because these Ebens managed to get them kicked out. The Syrians that we encountered are their enemy. The Lancaneers are their enemy, and the Orions definitely. And so the military are just helping them, like with dew weaponry and with energy weaponry like HARP and chemtrailer. So this seems to be all inclusive, all linked together. By the appearance of it, it's all pieces of the same puzzle. Benorfoil didn't seem to be threatened at all because I believe he could portal in and out of here. But the Evens and them were not thrilled that we were talking to his people. Same thing with talking to the giants. I believe it's all linked. All these species they don't want us to speak to. Because then we find out all of this agenda mixed together. This is all mixed together with the Orion agenda of divide and conquer and the reptilian agenda of looshing. So basically cutting down the amount of places that energy sensitive people can actually be. And elementally based people and elementals that can actually be around. And to make it all static. And of course, not all elementals, the dryads are still around, the trees obviously are still here. But remember, reptilians are more desert-like, Ebens are more desert-dwelling beings, minus the human accoutrements and adaptations and augments that they put into themselves. And Orion's just plain one, a nuclear radiated area. So you combined all this together, and you got the chaotic soup of energies, the Draco-like. You got the desert-dwelling areas, the others like the Ebens and some of the reptilians, and then you have the radiation of that Orion's like. So, and some of them are stealing human DNA and using it. So I don't know how they're adapting it to be in an environment like that, since humans need a wider berth of environments like elementals would. And this is why you don't see Sasquatch up on Thumb Butte anymore either. We have pictures of having had them up there. So it wasn't just us talking to the Lyrans that time, and the Cabal came looking for them, and the forest people, like what was in that video with the trucks up on Thumb Butte that time. That is not the only thing, folks. That is one piece of the puzzle. And this stretches back to 2018. Also in Sedona, we went out there in 2018 and 19 when we were reporting on what the military was doing with the energy mining and the energy that was drifting away from Sedona. Now that's all mysteriously been put back. How'd that happen? How and why? And also the elementals that were out there. We encountered some of those bat races that were out there that were spying for the military, and also the Fae that were not wanting those bats out there. And I've encountered many of those since then. Those bat creatures. I neglect to call them Batman, but because Batman's cool, they're not. So, with that said, we were encountering these things little by little, just like we were encountering, this goes to the COVID stuff too. I was seeing insectoids up on Thumb Butte around the time I was also starting to, a little bit after we had come back from the East Coast, and I had been seeing insectoids there and here putting triangular implants in people's chests. What happens? 5G is activated in places, and then what happens after that? COVID. So you can see the timeline and progression of events. Pushing out of elementals, nanoviruses, Orion agendas, reptilian and Syrian and Lancaneer agendas, even agendas. And all of that bring it all home. It's all part of the same divide and conquer type of plan. Divide us away from nature and conquer the elementals that were their ancient enemy, and conquer people from within, and making it so that everything is static, everything is orderly, and you can't step outside of that. This goes back to what I was saying about the sprays as well. You have to convincing people to self-farm, not only that, and spreading poisons all over the place, but self-farming the belief systems and the energetics. So you put all that to one, it's one solid agenda, folks. So I believe it's one picture from the evidence that I've seen even tonight. It's sad seeing these things, but it has to be turned around, it has to be noticed. So I will leave that with you right now, unless I come up with more. It is 5:26 p.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. One other thing, there is a strong push to get us personally out of here. This is a little addendum to this. Pushed us to get us out of here, and this happened to us 5 years ago on the East Coast as well, trying to push us that direction. Again, And we're trying to determine why this same buildup is taking place that took place for us out there in North Carolina. So, whereas there is just this buildup of energies, buildup of activity, attacking all of this other stuff just to push us away. The same thing happened there. There was a buildup of activity that made it so that it was inhospitable. So it's like this ping ponging effect. So we have to determine what is the best course of action with that. Either, as I said on Interstellar Council, either hanging around here or going back out there. It's whatever our soul is saying and our true heart is saying, and not whatever this foreign compulsion is. And that is just that's, I believe it's also part of the what I previously said agenda, but that this is more like a side thing, but at the same time, I believe is also integrated into this that whole scheme of things, where people like us are shuffled around as we notice things, so that we don't interrupt an agenda happening on a particular set of land, or we're being drawn to an area where we can be poked and prodded more. This happens to other people, that sometimes they get a huge compulsion to go somewhere, and it's just military or aliens trying to get them closer to a particular facility. I don't believe that's 100% here. I believe that might be maybe 10, 15%, but I'd rather have no percent. But that is has been a pattern with people that I've seen, where some military officer one time said, "Oh, you get a free vacation to Germany," and then all of a sudden he was abducted. Him and his families were abducted, and then somebody else gets a free vacation, and they come back a friggin' synth, so a synthetic that had no soul. So who knows? I'm not saying that'll happen to us. I'm just saying those are the other proclivities that are involved in this concept. So again, before I start going off on a tangent, I believe this is more it's a side thing, but it's also integrated into this. More on that soon. It is 5:29 p.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, we watched the new Mummy movie with Tom Cruise. That one from 2017. Not too bad. The one thing that I will say is they were pointing out the historical artifacts destroyed by people in the desert, the insurgencies. And this is essentially by Darshanian design. They're attempting to wipe not only their presence clean, but their Orion overlords or allies clean from history, so that they and them, I hate to use that term, the two more apt than you think, erasing someone's identity by calling them the they and the them, and with the microbial they and them that you heard on our transgender show, wiping somebody's individual identity clean and turning them to a they and a them, or he and he, she. In this, I know this is sidetracking a bit, but by doing this, it is no different than somebody wanting to go back to source to erase their own identity, which is not the goal of passing on or ascending. You see, that's not the idea to lose your individual identity. It's to gain more of a grounding in it here and bringing in more of yourself here, more of your soul here, and grounded in your own identity, in your own creativity and passion, not losing it to a they, them, he, she ascension to source. Source doesn't need you to, the true benevolent source doesn't need you to be there. It needs you to be here to learn and expand itself and yourself. Not in a Borg type of way, but in a you sort of way, you looking at you, higher self. Think about that for a moment. But what I was originally getting at was the artifacts being destroyed. Sometimes I heard some of the Venusian colonies have done it a little bit in order to get rid of edifices, magical edifices, or other edifices or visuals, to keep the Orions faceless. But at the same time, the Orions are mostly doing it, and the Darshinians are doing it to keep their presence still a secret, so that they can manipulate history if they wipe out the past. And they're using their servants to do so. Venusians barely have anything to do with this. except trying to learn more about the Darshinians and Orions, and also trying to keep the Orions faceless. But at the same time, that can be a detriment if you play that game wrong. But they're barely involved. Keeping them faceless is a bad thing. You want the world to see them. You want the world to know the history. This is why primarily it's being wiped out by the bad guys. I think the Venusian involvement is more logistic rather than physical. Just trying to learn more about them. But I found that interesting. That's where that movie starts off, and that's where they find the mummy. I'm thinking there's magical artifacts and stuff that the bad guys are trying to locate, just like Hitler attempted to locate magical artifacts from the Tartarian period in Poland. That's why he was there. There was a magical or greater tech, magical tech there, and links to Atlantis. They're looking for bits of Atlantis. They're looking for bits of the Lemurian period. They're looking for stuff that can assist them in getting the greater tech back that was lost ages ago. That's why the galactic community always says that the tech that exists now is lesser than what existed then. That's why these groups are trying to hunt for this. That's why Hitler was looking for it, on behest of those groups. So just think about that a minute. I'll get back to that subject at a later time. It is 10:14 p.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. Finite point in this is that the forces destroying the artifacts also don't want people to put the history side by side with things that make sense, because of the fact that because of the what? Okay, we were interrupted by something that followed us back from that neighborhood today. So that had tried to inhabit one of our creations and it got stuck. So we had to get rid of it. Plant demon with some creepy fairy succubus type things attached to it like puppets. So, but what I was saying before was another reason for the distraction was the juxtaposing information and history, and also they don't want you to see the things side by side. In the ancient history, that is, there's a bit of a mind wipe here. The Darshinian history linked to Atlantis and to the Tartarian Empire, anything they don't want to put side by side. That's what I was really going by. Yeah, man, that is really weird. I'll have to go back over the previous recording here. So I'll cap this one off. It is 10:43 p.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. Yes, like I was saying, the things that make sense, concepts that make sense, things in their own lives that make sense, and putting it all together in one package, including what was going on today. This is actually a very, very interesting point that I might add into the energy report of today, because it has just been crazy. And it seems my new moon shungite and that formula has been a hit. So, helping get rid of this, and we had tag team and get rid of it. So you see how much interference when people discover stuff, how much it can affect, and how much it pisses them off. So keep doing that, folks. Keep learning about yourself. Keep learning about history, the true history, and don't let it get wiped. Keep it alive. As long as a few people know it, it still stands. It still is firm and grounded in the moment. Not all history goes away, has to go away. Sometimes there are some things that are important, some things not. But it technically is all inclusive in the moment, all important, except things that, like certain energies that you don't want mirrored. But the history needs to stay alive. The important parts, anyway. So, with that said, it's 10:45 p.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you. I'll make this quick. They're also mad at the fact that we're working together again. That we're making true use and stuff like that together again. Like today, more than likely you'll see this video first. So the True You is coming up, a new one, but for the Patreon slash subscription base. So stay tuned for that. Oh, so it is 11:36 p.m. Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a more of a special edition of a talk with the elementals. This is more of an addendum to not only what happened to us yesterday, which I'll have included the recordings prior to this. It was more of an energy report slash report about elementals. And I will include that at the beginning, or will have already included that at the beginning of this. So it's also a continuation of what Benorfoil was saying on Friday for the Interstellar Council when he came through with the DACIC people. And whereas he is an elemental that basically consumes the waste that's around, even the dead fae and all of them, in order to bring about or usher in the spring or the rebirth. And his kind do this. But given the events of yesterday, I will sum them up a little bit, and then Joanna can add in what she wants to talk about with that as well. I'll sum it up a little bit with the sprays that have been going on here. I said previously, whereas they cannot be consumed by this elemental type, it kills them, and it makes it so that it is more of a sterilized area, according to what some of the Ebens and Syrians and all of them wish. I said this on little recordings as well in more detail. But when we went through that neighborhood and went through the two parks, well, Thumb Butte and Goldwater Lake, and the neighborhood especially, it was just completely devoid, or virtually devoid, of elementals. The chemtrails have been getting them, and also the spray's been getting them. And the elementals are at war essentially with the different Eben groups and the different Syrian reptilian and Lycaoneer groups, and Orion groups, and some of the other ETs, negative ETs. And this is something, a topic that I believe Benorfoil wants to expand upon. His kind was created roughly around the times of Atlantis, just like the Alarum. The Forbosi had to do with that as well. Benorfoil, I know you wanted to get right to it. So he's sitting in our plum tree again out there. So what he does is he projects onto the back of my head. He goes through the crystal for the channeling, but he's like, part of him sits like right there. So he's only as big as a leaf, only about that big. When you see certain leaves and stuff blowing around in the wind and they do those weird twirls and stuff like that, that's sometimes their people doing that, and they're doing it in front of you. So they look just like a leaf, like how a bug can look like a leaf. They're part bug, part plant. So same kind of physiology and camouflage. So as dead leaves or as living? Okay. So it's both. And the Dryadic consciousness, I know, can inhabit dead leaves as part of, using it like burning sage, all this other stuff, and dried leaves. But this is different. These are living beings that are just making themselves look like some of the dead stuff that's around, or a living leaf. So, Benorfoil, I know you wanted to get to it here. Man, there's a lot of cottonmouth today. I mean, so many even distractions. I know they don't want a continuation of this conversation. So, oh, clear without the hat, you say? Like on Friday? because I didn't have that on then. All right, but the evens will do their thing. So. Okay. Oh, like I was for no, I can't do naked on camera. No, I can't do that. No, on camera. There it is not. There it is not on camera. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes, I am Benorfoil, and my time is a little more brief than on the Friday show. Yes, he is correct. I will sum up. Yes, my kind was indeed created in the times of Atlantis, before we were basic elemental forms, such as the forms that you see in nature, such as you notice earth, air, fire, water, the basic fundamentals, or what you would call the all au natural state of being. Um, the current dilemma, as I started to touch on there, was the more of the war going on between ourselves and the other forces that exist, even some of your own people that are more complicit with the programming. No judgment, but we are stating for the record what both of you encountered in that neighborhood was exactly that war and, as he would say, massacre or horror show. This is what has occurred there. There's a very strong presence there that was not there prior. There are more even and other, as you would say, negative ET, but that is more or less a choice in that respect, or what they can tolerate or what they are allergic to, as it were. Their presence is strong in those areas of which you went to. It is more of a shame because our people had more of a domineering presence, as you would say, or a dominant presence in those places. We could very easily change it back if we had a greater standing, and they did not have the humans self-farming the thought forms and the poisons. We not so much as the thought forms, we can get around them, as the Evans tried to conjure through himself this morning with certain thought forms. We can get around them very easily, very much like you can move around an obtrusive object in a hallway and the like. That is not the issue. It is the aerosol poisons that fill your skies and also coat the grounds. The substance you call shungite does help with this, but as you two stated in private yesterday, the area in which you went to would require far too much to correct, and I do intend to agree. But little bits at a time do help, as you did on Thumb Butte, as you did in other areas as you travel, as he says, in millimeters and centimeters. My physiology is such to where we do consume the elements of nature that have been more desiccated and decayed in order to be, as you would say, the cleanup crew of nature. This may seem gross to others, but there is a certain beauty and balance to that side of things. Humans would see it as more or less a cannibalistic type of form, as I've said before. But in this, it is very, very different than this. It's more or less like a fly going for dung, or essentially any other bug consuming some of the waste around them. Essentially, we are part bug and part plant. Excuse the interruptions. This happened also the other day with your current forces in the area. They are objecting to this conversation because they know history is being made and also history is being spoken. Whereas if you compare the different histories, they dislike this, as you see on some of your programs where it puts things side by side. And they also hate the fact that some of their plants are being disrupted. Because even if a few people know this and know any of their plant, that changes it by little increments, as he says, millimeters and centimeters, and even inches and feet, and even miles in some cases. This is what has been going on, even with the noticing of this. The different sprays, as he said in a different recording, even your ones that are labeled as green, or even are the color green, so people visually associate it with being safe. Anything but. Yes, they are derivatives of your Agent Orange, but at the same time, they have other things in it that also make so that we cannot consume the wastes that they touch, like the different leaf materials and the different petals that we would normally consume, or even the different life forms that we would consume that have died. We cannot, we would have to, as you would say, eat around those areas and be very careful in that respect. In this, when you even the workers would think that they are doing a good thing because they're going green. No, this is anything but. You see, they are self-farming a system by which then exterminates a lot of our kind. We have been relegated to certain areas, but from those areas we can telepathically influence other areas. For an example, keeping some of the other crews away from this house with their distractions, we have been able to do so, such as some of their pre-programmed actions to distract against certain messages. Your even groups were doing these particular things, and the AI were doing these particular things to distract both of you away from doing the work that you are supposed to be doing, or how you see the work that is supposed to be done, I should say, to distract away from those things. They are putting up visual barriers, or attempting to, in our way, but they do not understand the true power of true nature and the power of the old natural earth in this particular way. We will eventually find a way around their snares, but in that interim, we encourage people not to at all engage in any of those practices by which damage nature. This includes especially that of the spreading of poisons. We know that it is difficult with the controlled people that are in your midst. They themselves are being controlled to be as harsh as they are, because of the fact they are being programmed to self-farm of this particular process, by which then other people begin that process. Very much, you know, the self-farming techniques by now, as you've spoken before, whereas the bad guys then teach a certain way, it becomes more of a belief, like a religion or some such type of belief, or some such law, or some such mandate, very much like with your COVID mandate, whereas people were self-farming the masking techniques and the vaccine techniques and the beliefs and the like that we're in. The same goes with these little fundamental things, such as spraying for weeds. Even something so small can, as he says, can speak the greatest volumes, because of the fact that it is harming our kind. This even goes into the air. Now, in areas where laws were made against it, this is where we've had greater influence. Whereas it laxes a little, like down in here in Arizona, this is where some of your even forces and others have taken more of a greater hold. So at this point, I can go into questions.
So I found it interesting and completely concerning that this was the first time ever that we left such a broad expanse of nature. And I mean broad, this isn't a tiny area we're talking about. This isn't like a block or two. This is a very large expanse area that was probably one of the areas in Prescott, Arizona, that was the most forested and most nature-like, butted up to a particular mountain area. And so what was so disturbing not only was being within it, but what was disturbing is that for the first time ever, it dissipated as we went into the flat desert land, which would totally be the opposite of what you would expect to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't quite yet wrap my head around how did a forested area. First of all, this isn't Roundup that people, that people are spraying in their yards. I don't believe that. This is something much bigger that people are not aware of because of the type of land it is, and where people would actually tend to move to be more el natural. So we're not talking, you know what I mean, that they're there manicuring the lawns like an HOA in this rock forest that we currently live. But this is pleasant, believe me, compared to what we just came out of, which blew my mind. So how is it being dispersed really? Because I don't think people know. And it's got to be changing whether people recognize it there that are living within it. It's changing them on the inside because those energies are dense, or they're keeping them in a lower density. It's like trying to create a lower density pocket, which blows my mind anyway, because I didn't think any of these groups wanted land like that. So I didn't think the evens, the buttheads that we call, wanted to be in forested areas. So I'm a bit confused about the whole thing as far as how is it being done, and who wants that land. That's what I don't get.
This is a plan that you caught in the works you see. Some of what knocked my people out of that area not only would have been some of the poisons in your skies, but also the dew weaponry, as you call it, or directed energy weaponry that normally would have scorched the houses, but they have refined it to such an extent that they can scan for my kind as well. Even if we're camouflage. So we've had to do much better at camouflaging what is going on in that neighborhood that I can report. Yes, people are moving there for the all natural, which is exactly what you two were looking for as well in the energies. The reason it was flipped on its head or opposite of what you would expect is certain groups are attempting to decimate that and get it to such a vibratory state to where the nature is not maintained, therefore it decays beyond back past a certain point, and they can claim a greater birth of territories. This goes for your Thumb Butte and your Goldwater Lake as well. They were throwing the elementals out of those areas. When you were looking years ago and saw the elementals changing, they found ways of transformative magic that they used on some of those poor elementals, not just my people, but other types that were around as well. This is why some of them accused both of you around that time of aiding and abetting an enemy, when in fact their brains were being messed with very much like yours does with the artificial intelligence you see. It was very much the same in that respect. But the reason they're flipped is they have their focus on that neighborhood to try to transform it into an environment that they find more pleasing. They are also transforming the people, especially the people with artificial intelligence, mind wiping, and artificial intelligence manipulative telepathy as well, in order to get people away from environments like that. Even though they did move to it, they are attempting to find those that are interested in that sort of thing, you see, and wipe it from their minds so that they do not want to go towards that. The ultimate end game is to detach people from Earth and eventually keep them in relegated areas like they attempted with ourselves, so they are away from nature, and that nature is totally put in abeyance, you see, to also obeyance as well to their will, which is never going to happen, mind you, but it is not like they do not try. This is what you are objecting. They're trying to keep some people that see this out of nature areas, and they are trying to, the ones that actually do not feel that particular density, then they're only feeling the nature. They're attempting to rewrite their brain mapping through different scripting and different subtle telepathic manipulations. This is what you were feeling in that vast area.
So again, from your perspective, it's the same group that's trying to have a much broader area than we were even originally thinking. Their area, their territory, which is weird anyway for this group because of so many people moving to this area. So I find this whole dynamic weird. It's like that's got to be not what they want.
They do not wish this, just like they wish you out of this neighborhood because you recognize their dynamics. So they're having also to stretch into a different area that makes them slightly more uncomfortable. But if they were to accomplish their end game, it would be well adapted to their needs. They're adapting people to eventually not want it all natural, want it either more technologically based or more desert or dirt-like based. Not that those environments, such as the dirt and desert, are objected to, because there are elementals that live within this as well, like stone people and the like. We are stating, though, and also ones made of dirt particles and sand and silica and crystal. We are not objecting to this particular group. We are objecting, though, to the conquerors wanting to move into an area that is not necessarily within their wheelhouse, you see. So this is another now pattern that is not necessarily known to you, because this would be outside or atypical of their activities. They're attempting to broaden their areas so that they can conform not only the area, but the people within them.
So would you say then, if they were successful, if this actually was successful, would the feeling that we felt going into the other area take over this whole area? Would it really be a lower density type of frequency that this whole place would be in? Or is this just a cleansing method?
It is a little of both. Actually, the environmental energy that you felt is something that, like ghouls and other energies, would actually enjoy, and the beings that attempted to invade your space last night would more enjoy. This is why you attracted them, because you were far less dense than the area. So this is it's a little of both. It is more or less to try to keep it in that malaise, like basically like if you were making food and pushing it down really hard with a spatula, or if you were throwing away trash and you were compacting it down. This is essentially what was taking place, layer upon layer upon layer. And within each of those layers was more of what you would consider to be a haunting type, or a demonic type, or a death energy, or just layer upon layer of junk. Each one of those layers would literally have to be burned off over a period of time through different land clearing techniques and the like. An area that vast, there would be hardly any supply you two would be able to utilize in that area, but energetic techniques and little bits at a time would aid in this, in helping to permanently keep the vibration much higher, to where it was out of that places or these people's control. This is essentially what is happening. It was meant to stay there permanently, and there is technology in the area reinforcing it that you do not see. It is disguised. There's other things. Your military has set up what you would call a dampening field in the area. If you look more towards some of your power boxes and some of your antennae, those would be more obvious choices to put it in, but this is not obvious. This is attached to the homes. This is attached to the roadways, the signs, all of those things that you do not necessarily look into. Do weaponry, AI, mixed with chemtrailing, mixed with some chemicals, mixed with even intrusion, mixed with energy dampening field. That's essentially the more compacted chaotic soup that you are experiencing.
So we are probably within an hour's drive to Sedona. I think, we let people know, and there's Cottonwood and Sedona and places like that. So, we've gone and we've done energy reports in Sedona as well, where we thought it was awful weird, and, energy points were shifting. So I find it an interesting conversation, because I think some, thoughts were that Mother Earth herself was moving certain energy points. But I have the question now, was that really something that was just said? And what's really happening is an attempt to expand a territory for a being who doesn't want the energies like that.
Indeed, you are most correct. The beings that were speaking to you there at the time did not wish that energy center moved. The Earth was moving it also to attempt to, as you would say, circumvent some of the control mechanisms, you see, that are being put in place. The Earth has now shifted that back into place. And you will notice that the energy, as you said, are back into place. But yes, there is some energetic manipulation going on there. You see, the what you call the bad guys, again, were attempting to take on a territory that was not necessarily their own. Very much like what is going on in your politics right now with the acquisition of land and land masses and the conquerings of peoples. You see, it is essentially the same move in that particular way. It is the same type of usurping move, but the other races managed to put some of it right along with the earth. It is now re-centralized in the area that it is supposed to be in. This is the time you're just seeing the effects of that particular warfare. The elementals at the time did not necessarily know how to completely relay this to you because you did not know all the facts behind this, but they were essentially attempting to relay this set of facts to you.
So, well, we at the time knew that there were military around, and we were more on the military bandwagon, what they were doing versus really understanding that it was also something else going on. So
you were not incorrect in finding these things, but it was only a piece of it.
Right. That's what it sounds like now. So I guess, I don't know how to ask this question because I don't want to lead and I don't want to lead people, but it's a natural curiosity question. When you look at, the desperate, it makes me question how many groups were treaties made with to give land. I mean, these old treaties that have been in place for, God, probably 100 years or more now. But these treaties that started that were put into place that, the people that were within our government, they were like, we'll make whatever treaty we want and, maybe we'll honor them, but we want the tech. So, how people try to always outsmart somebody else, I'm sure it was going on that level as well. Well, now it feels like, and I don't know, it may have been going on for a while, that like some of that treaty agreement is due. Like the agreements are due, these lands are due, that things like that. It just feels like something like that, maybe, because it's not just here. I don't believe it's just here. I just feel that there's a bigger picture going on, and I'm curious what your perspective is.
Yes, you are 100% correct on this. Treaties are coming due, very much like there was what you would call the Star Trek Next Generation episode, whereas those Native Americans were living on a different world, but then was delegated to the Cardassian Empire by the Federation, ignoring essentially the rights of the people that owned the planet, passing it over to someone else that they had a treaty with during the old war times. That was 100% accurate to what is going on, very much like your white settlers were moving the native tribes off the lands. They were essentially pushing back the descendants of the original Lemurian owners, you see, and the ancient Mayan owners of the entire area, given the programming that was taking place from reptilian and Orion forces at the time. This is also what drove some of the Vikings insane too, when they followed the false Odin to this very same continent, thinning out some of the numbers of the native tribes in that time frame. You see, they were also just as easily controlled as your U.S. government. See, this also was some of the forces and the magics that drove Nazi Party to its insane maneuvers. Let's just say by eliminating anything that was not white skinned. You notice the pattern: white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white European going after darker skin. They were being made to see that this was an abomination to nature, you see, or to their natural order of things. It was integrated into their programming. Also, there have been treaties, as you've said, that have had different species have different land delegated to them, very much like how when some of your white settlers, I'm not meaning to denigrate different races, but the different white settlers, after the Native American lands were conquered, they even had a famous race where they could plant a flag on a land and develop it. This is exactly what is going on right now. They shove different people out of an area, they plant their flag and develop it. It is the exact same concept, very much like as your Chinese, for instance, taking over your state of California, Oregon, and Washington. That is only one part of the picture, you see. They then, in turn, would then be pushed out and then relegated to the the different alien groups. They are actually assisting in that particular area. The reason they put that report out about the Chinese taking over, they did not want people to be alarmed by seeing a Chinese soldier walking around your state of California, which has been witnessed on more than a few occasions. That is actually Germany, China, and your US that are relegating that land to these different ET groups. This is also the reason for the fires, you see, killing the elementals in favor of that of alien treaty-born territories. This is happening all over the place. This also happened in your continent of Australia, killing some of the elemental forces that could stop the magic that is now hitting that continent with full 110% force. You see, this is why that level of insanity was going on there. It was more of an experimental platform in that particular way.
You mean the experiment was the way that they were killing off the elementals?
Yes.
Not the humans were now caught in the middle.
Yeah,
and
the humans,
involved, and how can you program them? But the big experiment going on, although from our perspective it's the experiment of controlling humans, but really behind that, or actually in front of that, is a huge experiment of exterminating the elementals of nature.
Elementals of nature, but also controlling the humans to generate not only the louche fuel, but also killing each other off, therefore making room for other beings that would inhabit the different lands, you see. The elementals would have fought back, therefore it had to have a larger focus delegated on it, you see. They would be assisting all of you now if they had not perished, you see. So in this was a sad moment for us, but we know what they're up to on this continent, and we are fervently fighting back here. They cannot get the same foothold that they did over there because they did it so quickly. Also with your COVID-19 incidences, like what the elementals were telling you in the Sedona area about the different 5G intrusions that they were afraid of. That was only, again, part of the picture, you see. You did not understand the entirety of this. They were using those weaponries to irradiate areas of those elementals. So again, these other races could carve out more of their territory, not that they don't have enough of it already. They could coexist with the rest of us, but they choose to be assholes. So in this, your military is very complicit in this. Some would say that they were programmed, but there are some of your own kind that are very, very complicit with this, and there are some that are just pre-programmed on the lower levels, very much like some of the workers that go through your neighborhood, some of which are also indeed military. This is what he was picking up on, not with just the poisons, because he's part elemental. Because of the affront to that and the allergic reaction to that in that way, both energetic and physical. But there have been military in landscaper type outfits and worker type outfits that have roamed this area trying to set up devices, like I've said, that was set up in that other neighborhood. They're attempting to do so, but you are essentially delaying them. Another reason why the Ebens of the military have attempted to push you out of this area, but there's only so far they can take it by their own treaty restrictions, you see. So the more you carry yourselves on with the time you have here in this area, all the better against them.
So it is a weird thing to me to say that, I can get that, treaties are coming due and things are going on. What I'm having a hard time with, though, is the limitlessness. It seems like you're saying military is complicit, people are complicit with this, but you would think they only want to give up so much land. I mean, this is what I'm a little bit also confused about. Well, why this limitness? It's like, why isn't somebody saying, no, we only agree to this, you're not going to push beyond these borders? Or are they our own people unwise to their pushing beyond the borders? That's what I don't get. I'm not okay with any of it, but I'm just saying that it doesn't make sense to me that this is now becoming this limitless land grab.
It is not essentially limitless, even though it would appear this way. It is more or less a what you would call a free-for-all in some areas. Some races are basically arm wrestling each other. Some are doing mining operations like you saw in Globe and going the business route in that particular way to gain different lands over the natives and over the different elementals. This is why those elementals know you recognized at least a part of those facts down there and rewarded you with the money down there in Globe. So with that said, you yourselves are just as equally part of this overall dynamic, even though you don't know the entire picture. There are good people that do know and some that do not, that are actively either participating on one side or the other. Very much like in a manipulated way, very much like in the conflicts with the Orions or Fomorians and Tuathans, whereas humans took both sides, you see, and the humans were caught in the middle. This is exactly what is taking place here. You are seeing a war dynamic, essentially, a big tapestry of factions, both militaristic with different factions and the different insignia. And you are seeing what you would call white hat, but it is not necessarily a black or white type of scenario. It's those that could actually, what would you say, one up the other. There really is no coalition fighting them, as some would say on the internet. It is more or less those that are trying to do good for others that are in their own delegated lanes and areas. This is essentially what you are witnessing. You are seeing the free-for-all land grab, but you are also seeing the elemental forces objecting, but you are also seeing some of your very own people objecting as well. Some are, both sides essentially are trying to keep you guys out of this, but at the same time allowing you to do things in your lane. Your Isaac is one of part of these factions that is doing good, or more or less sometimes you would say is on the fence in his neutrality and complicitly in some areas. This is why you have seen him protecting and also interfering in some areas where the negativity is, but also sometimes holding you guys back in some areas to protect you. We hold no judgment, but we are stating what is going on in what you would say is facts and figures. This is also why you've seen different military units come around you on both sides of the country. Not only are they attempting to learn what you know, but different alien factions are. You are just seeing the different factions involved in these conflicts.
So my question then is, have the governments that here represent Earth, and I should say governments slash ball slash people that are so far above the government anyway, are there lands that are hands off, that are completely protected by Earth humans and Earth groups as you're not allowed to have this? I mean, does that actually exist, or is it really a complete free-for-all?
That is a thing that does exist. There are protected lands that are part of this war as well. This is why you see some political government factions trying to mine, like for uranium, or trying to mine for different ores and different stones and different gemstones and different minerals in different areas that may be considered sacred to another area or another people. You see, this is what you are seeing, but there are those areas that are permanently protected, or they are labeled as permanently protected, and there's an alien race living on the other side. Very much like he suggested to the Lancaneer contingent at one point, put a sign up if you don't want humans crossing into your territory, either dream-wise or physically. And then not too long after that, they put a fence up with a sign saying military grounds do not cross. This is what you will also see. You'll see some mysterious fenced off lands. Some are those protected areas. Some of those are where some aliens are living. If people were to walk into those areas, they would think it was like a haunted wood or something like that, or a haunted building, where in fact those aliens are supposedly defending their territory or their experimental interests. He has come across this in his paranormal research, where sometimes you see mysterious lights and the like in an area that would spook people, or different ghost activity. Not that that doesn't happen with some of the what you call spook lights and the like. But within their infinite stupidity, they're drawing people to the area because of the activity, because people are becoming no longer afraid of this smoke and mirrors spook technique any longer. But yes, there are protected lands, and there are protected lands that have aliens living on them.
So I need us to change this subject, because, I feel, and Chris and I have spoken about this a few times, that I feel very strongly that we need to give this information, but we also need to give more balance into positive co-creation so that we can build people's confidence that they can help co-create this back to what we want. So what I'm curious about is, Right now, we're seeing a lot of land grabs. Now, obviously, you're saying one win, let's call it a win, but really, I don't know that it was the people's co-creative skill. It was nature's co-creative skill
Both.
that pushed, well, that's good to hear, that pushed back at the energy centers leaving Sedona and pushed back and put it back into place. I call that a win, you know? So can you speak a little bit about that and about, you know, again, what people can do and any other examples of a few wins? I think we have to work on balancing this information to give people the confidence and help them build their skill sets to help in this way.
Yes, there are other examples of wins in your country. For instance, this may seem very, very odd, but this was compared by himself to the Sedona moving, which is your Bermuda Triangle, for instance. Whereas you read somewhere or saw somewhere online that the Bermuda Triangle was moving slightly. This was a win because it was also been put back. It was also to show people that it wasn't just an anomaly. You see, it was technology. The energies were pushed up towards a portion of your state of Florida into your Carolinas and in your Virginia area, even though nefarious forces were doing this to try to abduct people under the guise of paranormal activity. Again, this was also noticed by a lot more people that were in some other benevolent factions and also elementals as well. And the island that was at the center and is at the center of your Bermuda Triangle has been noticed now by some of these more benevolent factions. To us, that was more of a win. That was a bit of warfare going on with the movements of your Bermuda Triangle and other areas around the globe that are of both Lemurian and Atlantean ancient technological capabilities like this, or your level of technology wired into that level of technology, very much like in your Stargate Atlantis, whereas they wired their laptop computers and the like into the ancient technology so they could look over the database in their own way with their own software and hardware. It's essentially the same difference. A fragment of Atlantis equipment was being used to generate or amplify an anomaly that was much more minor in retrospect. But the example of co-creating it would be you see an object to something that is taking place that you do not like or do not want. Even though your media is attempting to divide and conquer, it is that specific thing in and of itself that is to be noticed and co-created out of existence, you see. Keeping the peace, yes, but also standing up to bullies, as I am doing right now with the buttheads, standing up to bullies and make sure that these things are noticed, but at the same time, finessing it to where there is really little to no blowback, because once you hit a glass ceiling, they feel that it is their duty to retaliate against you, or if you interrupt an experiment in a session or something of some sort, which makes no sense. You are disrupting something they feel is theirs. Continue to do so, but also take the proper safety precautions in order to make sure that your own standing is not disrupted. In this, when you notice something in your society that is wrong, yes, be vocal about it, but energetically vocal as well, to where you en masse as a society are shifting it into the place or back into a place where it's supposed to be. People always say, oh, well, we're trying to shift it back to normal. Well, there was never really a normal to begin with. What you are really truly wanting is a state of normalcy and peacefulness. That is where you need to find common ground in this. Yes, get rid of your bullies, but at the same time, if you have to participate in this war on some level, be it energetic or physical, just make sure that you do not allow yourself to be altered in the process here or here, and in soul or detached from soul, and do not get so worn that you denigrate your own position of standing. You can even, again, as far as co-creative techniques go, or manifesting, write these things down and see these things as changes in your immediate area, especially to yourself, and you project it out to the immediate area, and you change things accordingly in your area. Say if you want that neighborhood changed, you just basically change that aspect in yourself that would never tolerate or see or an energetically depraved area such as that. Therefore, even so much as walking into an area, you're changing the fundamentals of that energy, not allowing it to change you in the process. It does not become the dominant torsion field, you would say. Your molecules, your energy, everything are essentially with every footstep, and even driving your vehicle into the area would change that area fundamentally forever and ever. Even with leaving the stones, even with just being there, it would change that forever and ever back to a state of peace and normalcy and balance, if this makes any sense.
It does make a lot of sense, but I am curious as far as where you think humans are at, because, you know, I would say, of course, do everything you do, but I would say with what we were just in, I really wouldn't think that it would be wise for a person like myself or Chris to go move there to do this. And that's the difference that I want to say, is that you can do this energetic work outside of being in the midst of it. You know, you can visit it, you can, you know, try to push some energies and some dynamics, and you can visualize it fixed and good, and this is what you want to see. But I question, you know, and so you know, I'm always looking for the hook. I'm always looking for the, you know, the hook that could get somebody in trouble. And to me, one of the hooks now that energy sensitives or whatever could end up falling for, that would really not be good for them, is somebody's telling them, you're supposed to move there to fix it. You're supposed to do this to do that. You're supposed to, you know, you're the one, you're the keeper of the node, you're the whatever they're telling you.
Yep.
But really, the issue is so overwhelming energetically that really all it is trying to get persons who have some skills to go into the area to dampen them out. It really would crush you.
Yes, do not be pawns in this war by saying, oh, you must, by listening to a voice saying, oh, you must go here to change this. That is irrelevant. It is up to your own heart space to determine what is correct in the course of action for yourselves, or else you're being bounced around like pawns on a chessboard to areas by which maybe your energetics are needed or not needed in a particular area that you're taken away from. It is up to your own discernment to judge which is which in this particular manner. If the best way to determine this, are you being pulled towards something, or are you being, as you would say, drawn or inspired to be in a particular environment? That is the clue right there. If you are being pulled like a leash, do not go for this. Essentially, you know, either buying a home or buying a vehicle or moving to an area, do not go by the leash. Now, are forces pushing you out of this particular area? Yes, they wish you out because you are making even small changes in the fundamentals on the atomic level. You see, this is something they do not appreciate and do not necessarily tolerate. But in their infinite stupidity of the fact that they all obviously have butts for heads, they are thinking with their rear, because of the fact that they, by doing so, you are noticing what they are doing. And by that, you are then able to properly discern whether it's them or it's you. This is essentially universally, if you want to call it this, or by true benevolent source creator, however you want to view this, it is essentially what they have put in motion for themselves, integrating themselves into this form of creation. The same with the Orions or any of them. They have become part of the system of balance, very much like a forest fire burns a forest in order to give rebirth. They've essentially become part of this process unwittingly, unknowingly, and objectingly to themselves. This is essentially what is going on. Now, if you wish to be in a certain area and you have a longing to a certain area, you may even have a past life in that area, which again is just fine, as long as you're not mirroring the wrong things and mirroring the wrong essences from other eras. By wrong, I mean some of the things that do not apply to the here and now, not on a dualistic type of scale. What I'm saying is if you were to say try to move into that other neighborhood that was so denigrated in energy, it would not necessarily be good for both of you or any energy sensitives that move into that area. However, changing things little by little would not only anger the ones trying to uh, say mess up the area, but it would begin to fundamentally destabilize what they're trying to do, little bits at a time. Even entering that area yesterday, as you did, began to destabilize their network in the dampening field because of the type of energy you to emit, you see. But back to the fundamentals, do not get caught up in a war that is either not your own, or do not get caught up in becoming, as you would say, pawns in that conflict by moving to here or there without that of your own will and common sense and that of your own grounding capabilities. There are some that, of course, have been tricked out of properties, been tricked out of acquisitions. And yes, this happens, unfortunately, quite often, where then people are sucked into a particular home that always feels like it's sucking the life out of them. Universally, there may be a reason for this because they're there to leave their mark. Or, as you said, there are those that are essentially watchmen, fake couples, watchmen, or gatekeepers that are on a soul level supposed to be in that area to fundamentally change the energy in some way, to keep watch, like Viking does for his property. You see, that is a slight difference. The fake couple one are other people that are out there that are military watch people that don't know that they're watch people for different neighborhoods. There are also some that are cognizant that you would call gang stalkers. This is actually going on. There is a fundamental difference between the energetic type of affinity and that of a watchman. There is a fundamental difference there, extreme difference, and he himself has seen all of the above. Now, this is up to your own discernments of where to be and where to go, but I'm just saying that these are the dynamics that are taking place currently.
And it's important to know because, again, pretty much anything out there that may be even for helping in a good way, like a person who is drawn to an area to help with the energies there, just you've got to understand if there is something good that we would label as good like that, there will be a way to pervert it.
Mhm.
And so I know I always sound like a Debbie Downer, but you have to understand the strategy that is employed to pervert everything. And so, you have to understand there is a calling and true, but there is also the false. And there's, in my humble opinion, with the dynamics that are going on, there's a lot more false right now because there is a huge effort to try and dampen people's skills. You're starting to realize that you have these skills. You're starting to realize maybe I was co-creating for the wrong purpose and for the wrong person and this, that, and the other. I want to start doing it. I want to start doing it for myself or whatever. And then something is put in your head to go and change and save the world. And if you think you're at that skill level yet, I am going to be the Debbie Downer and say you're actually not, but that will come in. Let's get this group and let's change the world. Let's get this group and we're going to change the whole thing and we're going to do it quick. It's going to be poof, instant pudding. It's going to be fixed. That is a ploy. That is a ploy because the goal is to actually drain you of your skills or to get you to cul-de-sac in a circle doing something that's not going to get you anywhere.
Or being a soldier in a war or a battle that is not necessarily yours to claim. That is the third option.
Right. And so you need to have awareness of this and don't let any being tell you that you are so superior and your skills are so magnanimous. It's not true. We're learning. We're in a learning phase now. There's the uncovering so we can see what is real, and we're in a learning phase. We have a lot of potential to make a lot of good changes, but you have just as much of a chance right now of being derailed. Mm-hmm. And so again, you have to understand that you can make changes in a big way by not physically being somewhere, but by rejecting the premise of how something is and saying, no, this is, again, I say this over and over again, that this is not acceptable for how I'm living on the place that I'm living, and I'm not leaving. And it is what I say. And don't allow that type of energetics then bands with other people who feel that way, and changes really do happen. They want to convince you that it's not that way, that you must be boots on the grounds doing ceremonies and doing things that really aren't going to necessarily give you the outcome that you want right now. Now, I'm not saying that people are at different skill levels. I'm not saying some people, don't have a little bit stronger skill level, but from Chris and my experience, and I don't know where we are. I figure we're just somewhere in the middle as far as, abilities or understanding that, we're telling you that, from our experiences, whatever, this is what we're learning, and this is what we're trying to share with you so you can be more effective with your co-creative skills that you're now learning. And part of it has to be to not get involved in such a direct way, and work on yourself still and do it more in an energetic, indirect way.
Yes, and indeed, also, like say in your New Age community where people say, well, their guides are telling them that they must move to a particular area. That is total and complete bullcrap in that area. No one tells you anything. You either accept what is being said or you do not. This goes with certain downloads. This goes with the flow of energies going in a manner that are not indicative of how you need to honor yourself. Or as I've said, a being is trying to bully you out of an area. Your stance is a correct one with standing up to these beings and standing up to supposed guides, you see. There really are no such thing as spirit guides. It's more or less telepathic influence, like what they said on Interstellar Council a couple of weeks back. This it is more or less the war of these influences, a war of magic, and basically a shuffling of the cuffs type of war with your kind as well out there. So it is essentially a big puppet show along with the puppeteers that also battle the puppets against each other. Essentially, you would call it the head bit of the gods, whereas those that feel that they are the ones pulling the puppet strings are they themselves puppets. So it goes up and up the line. These strings are being cut even as I'm speaking now. But your co-creative skills and your energetics as you self-evolve are really beginning to turn the tides in these conflicts. And also, as for ceremony, yes, ceremony is very important, but at the same time, you can do things in different ways that also will accomplish the same ceremonial goals in whatever areas you find yourselves in, whether they have restrictions or whether they have openness in any and all areas, such as ceremonial burnings or ceremonial statues or ceremonial types of liquids or anything of that nature. We're not saying that these things are not important. They are immensely important. And there are times where that it absolutely must be in the format that it must be to be most effective. Very much like in his Witcher game with all the spells and the different techniques to reclaim a land area or a house or a property or a farm or a town. Yes, so those are actually accurate in those particular ways, and they aid immensely in this war that is going on currently that is mostly being unseen by some, or if they do see it, they're just seeing the outer corona, as it were, edge of this little joke there in this. But as you have stated, you don't necessarily have to always be in a particular area to accomplish this. But in the case of that neighborhood, yes, I would stay out of there and just change things fundamentally by pecking away at it, say throwing a stone here and there to change this. We know your supplies are in short order in that area, but using some of the more potency type of things, such as your powders and liquids, will change it fundamentally. The smaller, the better in that case. The more macroscopic type of substances, the better in a case such as this, because it will move around in the area very much how we blow around in the wind. It would blow around and hit things. This is exactly what is needed in that area. Things that can move and blow around. Hell, even taking a dead leaf matter and mixing it in there, or coating a dead leaf with it and throwing it back into the fray would help immensely. Or some kind of dirt glob or something like that coated with that substance or set of substances would work immensely. The little things like this that would go unnoticed, like what he always said, camouflaged as something else. This is something that is highly recommended right now. This is exactly how we camouflage ourselves as a piece of nature, camouflage what you do as like an everyday action that some, you would call them a normie person would do, like what he does with his liquids, making it look like he's dumping pop, or putting a rock amongst other rocks that look very similar to one another. Things of that nature help out immensely because they are untouched by anyone. Even if, say, a rock is kicked or moved around or something, it shifts and moves that energy around. Things of that nature, techniques of that nature, speak extreme great volumes in the etherics and speak great volumes of beings such as ourselves attempting to fix these particular problems. Just as like he sent the Sasquatch a gift recently up in Northern California. That particular set of energetics helped immensely and spoke great volumes for that area and the healing and transformative energies of that particular area. Granted, that was a more accelerated version of what I'm talking about, but you get the idea.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. I know time's a bit limited, so I just want to now give you the floor to say whatever you wish to say.
Yes, this has been wonderful. I know I let's say popped in very quickly. This is why also you had some of the interference this morning that you did with he did with some of the other downloads getting away, which they're not invaluable. They're incredibly valuable. This is again those buttheads fault for not noticing this. And again, as I've said, they're part of some of this overall process of which they are completely and utterly unaware. Whereas those downloads then aid in another energetic way by which it spreads out of their control. They think they blocked the psyche by, oh, we're going to annoy him by putting other downloads from his own brain in the way that he hasn't utilized yet in his own file cabinet. By using them, by putting them out there, then they can no longer use those for their own gain. Therefore, the energetic gain that is made by that speaks greater volumes than what they initially did. And that actually angers them. They think their own plans are being thrown back at them in their face. And essentially, that is essentially the pie to the face that they need in this particular time. This is what has been going on with the multitudes of downloads that he's been getting because he is incredibly receptive. Brain muscle wise, as you would say, like lifting a muscle, eventually you get to another tier to where you see every download. You can ward these to where they'll cycle back at a time that is more convenient. Sometimes you cannot. But not all of them have to be honored because they might be of a subject that might be to their liking or close to it. So those have to be filtered, you see, or warded against in some way to where when you're out in public, it's not constantly cycling. Which he's learned how to do. It's just hit a different tier now, you see, with all the channelings and all the projects and everything that's done, it's hit a different level to where it has to now be worded against, say, when you go out of the house or when you go on vacation or what have you, unless it is needed or wanted in a particular situation. Now, there are some that are unavoidable, that it's a piece of information that you're seeing at the time in a place that you are different, like what happened yesterday with the neighborhood that you're adding to this broadcast. Different. You see the difference there. Some are technological garbage inducing that side of his brain, but at the same time, those same downloads that come through, that even are technological or AI induced, will also provide benefit, changing things in millimeters and centimeters at a time. So effectively, he would say they are giving the shovel to bury them with, or they're putting the last nail in their own coffin. Essentially, effectively correct in that way. They are denigrating their own plans by getting involved in your own. Essentially, this is why this takes place to begin with. It's essentially a cycle of rebirth that is taking place. It is a cycle of transformative changing and healing. This is what is taking place in this area. This is why some of their plans are so damn blatant. In this way. It doesn't mean that they're always going to go completely away. That is actually a farce that is out there. There are certain forces that are changing form like them. They're changing apart humans and all that, they are essentially nature-wise changing their shape, or changing their form. This is not always completely a bad thing, but because going into a human form, a human psyche will start to change their perspectives a little bit. Others are deteriorating and going away, but some of them are changing shape. And any reports you see of, oh, they're completely on the ropes, or they're basically going completely extinct, that is a farce. The cabal essentially is on the ropes, yes, for the Earth ones, but it does not mean that the energies will affect the space ones, as he likes to say, or the space Nazis. It doesn't mean that they're automatically going to put down their weaponry and they're down their techniques to go, oh, times are changing, and we might as well just give in. And we see the writing on the wall. No, they're not doing that at all, folks. It's the energies that you put out here that begins to change them. You must become the more powerful torsion field to take over things like the ICC and the space Nazis and the mining rights and all of that goes on in space, and getting rid of all that does not serve, like the slavery and the like, and the secret space program. It is up to all of you to notice these things as real and begin to change these things. They aren't just going to do it. As you say, they're to the last breath. So how would that, you have to think in their perspective, how would it serve them to go along with the ruse that they've planted into all of your psyches, that they are suddenly going away, you see. And this will actually take generations to accomplish, not just this small amount of time. It will take literally generations to weed out all of the Earth versions of them, as well as people becoming more intolerant to what goes around them on Earth and in space, while not giving into the programming that has been instilled in them to object to change. This is what is currently going on. This is something people generally don't want to hear. They want the instant pudding, as you say. So therefore, these people are giving them the instant pudding. They're throwing their lower levels under the bus. Okay, we'll let you arrest these guys so we can hang back here and rewrite history a little more in the background. This is essentially what they're doing. When you know about them, you can literally change that for yourself, saying, I do not want this. I do not want to live in this environment. I do not want that around me here or in the cosmos when we go out there. The end. And doing that will speak far more volumes than getting caught up in your malaise and your system and your puppet show that is currently going on now. Recognizing it as a puppet show is one of the first steps. So I will end that with this, but thank you for listening to the sound of my voice. I am Benorfoil, and I am what you would call an elemental that is essentially located in the Harlem area of New York. I can say this because it is actually more of a slightly protected area, even though it may not seem like such, very much like your Prescott energies were slightly higher than that of that neighborhood. It is essentially that same concept for that park. So I will end this here. Thank you very much, and blessings to all of you. All right. Yeah, he had to speed it up there a little bit, but it's actually quite interesting. He does get pushed around. He does get like smacked a little bit, just like some of the giants that have been here. When some of those Ebens were volleying stuff my way, they were trying to hit me, and they hit one of them in the face, or on the side of the head right here. That's essentially what they were doing to him. They were going, "Stop it, stop it, stop it," and they were trying to smack him in the head a little bit. They seem like giants compared to him, but he's actually stronger than them. Their people are they're in the we're not going to take it anymore mode, and they're essentially banding together and shielding not only this conversation and the one that happened Friday as well. They were completely shielding, or almost completely shielding. There were hundreds of them attempting to shift this, and this is what's going on. And they're in different locations. They're not necessarily here, completely here. Benorfoil is, since he had to be close since he was doing the channeling, but they are projecting from other areas to create like a net or like a shield, and to protect the conversation. But they're not actually here. They're in different parts of the country, but it's the same species. So they're called the Dokik. That's Dokik is how that is spelled. now they're actually starting to dissipate, and what are they telling me to do? Oh yeah, I have to burn the pathway now. I visualize my shoes being burned, which burns the pathway to not getting basically blowback or kickback from that. Though they can't promise these they call them butt crack men now. Okay, I don't know who came up with that name, but okay. Oh, I could go with that too, but butthead works as well, or crackhead. But they seem to respond from calling them names a lot, but they get really angry. Just the little names, you could call them doo doo head and they get pissed. So it's like reptilians are that way too. They go from zero to pissed like that. You could go, hey, doo doo head, and they go oh, like that. So yeah, the evens are kind of like that, where they'll go be more stoic about it, but they'll still try to beat you up, sort of thing. But it's like, but that's how they are. So you can pretty much say butthead and they get mad. This I'll have to end it at this part because I'm starting to get kind of fuzzed a little bit. So thank you everybody for watching this talk with the elementals on this subscription platform. It is shifting from Patreon to at the time of this recording to a new platform, which will more than likely be available sometime this year. Thank you everybody for watching. Bye-bye now.
Okay, I'm going to reference back to kind of round this conversation off. Reference back to a incident that happened beginning of 2021 last year, when Texas had that big freeze that took place. And also we had -10 temperatures that moved through here, and I had to move product inside and save a bunch of our stuff. On top of that, there was a praying mantis that I said one of the shows that was out here clinging to the wall one night or one day, and then in the morning I found him dead over here. Well, he was on this pillar originally, and then I found him over here dead. He had been hit with a super freeze. That was a HARP event that took place that was being aimed at Texas at that time, but it passed through here on the way out, and I believe that specific little praying mantis was one of these elementals, because he clung by here. I just wasn't noticing him, and as a elemental I thought he was a regular praying mantis, but when I saw him dead, there was like this extreme emotional reaction, like a larger sentient being had been killed. And I knew he was different than the rest of the little praying mantises, because he was about this big. And he shrunk down after he died. He shrunk down, and I put him in this pyramid right here. You can't really see him in here anymore. You kind of can, along with the skull that the forest people gave. You can kind of see his wings on the side there a little bit by that nut. The way I reacted to it, I knew something horrible had happened, and I believe that wave killed some of the elementals in this area. Like around that time is when Bundini disappeared, and several others. Or Bundini or Blendini, I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's when several of them disappeared from this area. So I believe that weather control event wiped out a bunch of them as well, like what we were talking about before. With some of the weather control and what I showed on those other videos. Like I said, I believe it's all connected. It's all interconnected. Part of the same set of subsets of the same agenda. So, yeah, that's what went on with that mantis. I put him in that pyramid because I know these pyramids and these devices like those have the ability to push away some of these chemicals. If these tower busters seem to have an innate ability to disperse some of these, if I add a little bit more oomph to them, they seem to have that ability. And I've had the compulsion to put some magnetite powder out, and I found out that disrupts the artificial intelligence as well as grounds you, as well as gets rid of some toxins too, along with amber, frankincense, and myrrh, all those types of things. But I'm not going to waste too much product on this neighborhood this year, but I am going to put a couple more devices out. So that's what I believe happened last year. with that deep freeze that took place, because I noticed that's when a lot of the elementals vanished. Like I said, Bundini disappeared, and several others, and several of the Grimpa vanished without a trace. So something horrible happened. I believe that something similar was in that other neighborhood. So, and the parks, like Thumb Butte and Goldwater Lake. So I will end that here. 11:35 a.m. Sunday, March 20th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, a point I will make on that bit with the neighborhood that we found. What they were getting at, changing things little by little at a time. It's like how I deal with the big, powerful bad guys in games. What happens is if I try to attack something that's much greater in power, it takes a lot to get rid of it, or wears your weapon down, or what have you. In this case, the weapon would be the energies, and you would need more of an oomph to get rid of that bad guy. In that neighborhood, same difference. You run across some tighter areas where you would require more of the thing that would fix the energies, or bring resolution to the energies. And it's like with that neighborhood, I didn't even bother leaving anything but a couple shungite nuggets to connect it to the grid, let the grid handle it, because we were living there, I'd be having to use way too much to maintain. Just like in this neighborhood in Granville, I have to put down liquids at least once a week. Not only did the rains wash a few of them away, not all of it, a lot of it's still there, like this. Some of it's still there, but the point I'm getting at is that it requires a little bit more. I would be burning out through all of my supply if I went to that other tighter neighborhood, tighter energy, more compressed energetic neighborhood. Having to do that once a week here, either with incense or with liquids, sprays, is bad enough having to do that. If I went there, I wouldn't go there, but if I had to, I'd be burning through it too fast. It's very much like in a game where, like I said, you're encountering the tougher bad guys, and if you don't power up properly, you can't take that on. Eventually I'll get to the stage where I can easily traverse that, but it's going to take some time. Other people adapt to it quickly because they don't feel it or sense it, or they don't know it's affecting them. I'm talking about where I'm fully protected, fully sane, fully cognizant, and still can go through it. So that's going to take some time. I'll report on that concept more as I know more. But here I will end it here. It's freezing out here. So it's 4:02 p.m. Sunday, March 20th, 2022. Thank you.